Before this block of instruction begins, I have one quick PSA. It's a really service level dive into the 5.56 caliber AR15. We're not going to touch too much on other calibers like 300 Blackout, 458 SOCOM, 50 Beowulf, or anything like that. Those are specialty options, and the average Joe isn't getting that right off rip. This assumes you have a regular 5.56 caliber AR15, and you just got it, you kind of know what you have, you did rudimentary research, and you just want to learn how your rifle works and some tips and tricks how to get you ready for the range. So without further ado, let's get into it. So you just got a new AR-15? Cool, you're in the right place. In this video, we're going to get you from box to range ready, from A to Z, Alpha to Omega, and how to use this thing and set it up properly. I'm going to give you the keys to the Lamborghini. So strap in, buckle up, and let's dive right in. You got your first AR, and you're itching to go to the range, get some training, get some fun time in and all that, but slow down high speed, you're not ready yet. You have to take your rifle apart and do your initial inspection and initial lubrication. Now, because of YouTube's rules, I'm not sure if I can really show you how to do that. It's not very difficult, but guys, if you're ever having trouble with your rifle with disassembly and all that, just consult your manual. Your rifle should come with one, and if not, there's plenty of online manuals and things like that. It's not very difficult. It's a pretty easy procedure. So this part shouldn't be an issue out of the box, but before you start messing around with it, we have to remove our source of feed, and we're going to inspect the chamber for any ammunition. So you can inspect in there, no brass. Okay. Now you can start messing with it in a safe manner. So now that you got your rifle open, you don't got to worry about it too much for right now, so just take it and put it off to the side. We're going to focus on our bolt and bolt carrier and our charging handle. This is an aftermarket charging handle. Your AR-15 more than likely will come with a regular GI spec charging handle, and that's fine. Other charging handles exist for the fact they have a bigger latch, easier to get a hold of. Some are ambidextrous, some have these come all the way out to like here. But that's inconsequential. Yours probably won't come with anything like this. And it's not that important because the charging handle only exists as a means to pull your bolt to the rear. Nothing else. So don't overcomplicate this piece. You can actually use it as a tray for your other bolt parts, which we'll go over in a second. So put that off to the side. Here's your bolt and bolt carrier. This one's a phosphate finish, and more than likely your AR-15 will come with a phosphate finished bolt. They're cheap, plentiful, and most of the time they work pretty well. This is a Stag Arms bolt. It's my beater bolt from a AR-15 I had a ways back. But your AR-15 more than likely will come with a bolt just like this. Some are better than others. Better than this one, which doesn't say a whole lot, but this is pretty basic. This is a regular direct impingement bolt. What that means is the gases get directed into the rifle. When the rifle's locked up in battery like this, gases will get directed into this tube here, expand to the chamber. The gases will push the bolt head forward and push the carrier back, which will unlock it, causing it to cycle and repeat the process. So we're going to take this apart and go over the things you should oil and look out for lubrication and your basic inspection. So sit tight. So this time we can see the bolt has been disassembled. Here's the carrier, and there really isn't much you need to do to this thing. Just a little bit of oil right here on this rail, right here on this rail, right here on this rail, and right here on this rail. Maybe a little bit right here, just like that. And that's all you have to do for this thing. Like hear guys say, well, the AR-15 likes to run wet. No, that's not really true. Just on the bearing surfaces. Because the only part that comes in contact with anything in the rifle are those 4 or 5 points right there. Everything else is just kind of floating around. So oil the key points. You don't really have to overdo this thing. You don't got to slather it in oil, and you do not have to put oil in these holes here. Those holes are actually to eject the gases. Because when this is together, as you can see, the bolt's locked. When you fire the round, gases expand inside the carrier here. You can see the seal break right there, and gases blow out of it. So any oil that is in there gets vaporized and combusts and all that stuff, and it gums up your gun a little bit more on the inside. That's more stuff for you to clean. In the military they do that, I'm fairly certain, just so you have something to do, but irrelevant. So just put some oil on this rail, on this rail, on this rail, and this rail, and a little bit right here. That's all you got to do for this thing. Oh, actually, you can put some on this track here too, but we'll talk about that in a minute because that's another piece. On your bolt head, You can see where it's rubbing right here on that race portion. Put a little drip of oil on that. Put some on your gas rings here. These gas rings, they turn. They don't have to even line up like people say they do. They don't. The AR-15 will run with one gas ring. And the ones like in the military, a lot of them have blown out gas rings. So it'll work even without them. It just doesn't work properly. So there's that. Put some oil and inspect actually. Look for cracks on your bolt head. Put some oil between the teeth of the bolt, the locking lugs, and put some on the back. Not a whole lot. Get some in this little ring here, because that's the camming pin goes in there, you know. So a little oil in there is always good. Oil this piece a lot. This piece gets a lot of wear and tear on it. You can see that line on it that looks like a little wave. That's from the bolt camming, and it helps if you put it back in the same way every time. Now the rifle will still work if you put it in a different way, because it only really goes in one way, but you should mark one side of it so you know that's the side that goes that way. The reason being is so you don't wear it out on both sides and it breaks a little bit faster, but these things are cheap, relatively speaking, and you know, just get a new one, but that'll make it last a little bit longer. Here's your firing pin. Sometimes these tips like to break off, but again, a firing pin's a pretty cheap fix. You know, if it breaks, just buy a better one. Should last a good long while. You don't have to oil this. This is your cotter pin. This piece only exists to hold in the firing pin. And again, another cheap piece. You can have quite a few on hand just in case they do break, which I've never seen one break, but I'm sure they can. Anything made by human hands can and will with time. Charging handle doesn't really need much oil. Just a little swipe right here and a swipe right here. As you can see, not much else has silver on it because this thing doesn't really do a whole lot. It doesn't cycle when the gun fires, so not much needs to be done. And you can take a little bit of oil too and just rub it around in here to give this thing when it's cycling, you know. But that's really it. The AR-15 does not need that much oil. But let's put it back together and we'll take a look at the internal parts of the lower. On the AR-15, this piece is the lower, and this piece is legally the firearm. But you do have to put some oil in there too. You put a dab, oops. I'm gonna separate this piece actually, hang on. Okay. Put some oil on these springs here. On that spring there, and there, and your hammer will move a little bit more freely, easily. Do not let the hammer drop on a disassembled rifle. It can damage the receiver itself, which is made of aluminum, because this is hardened steel, and you can chip up your bolt release. You don't even need any oil on this thing. This piece moves when you the last round will hold the bolt back, and when you push the ping pong pedal, it will drop the bolt. You can also whatever, I'll do it anyway. And drop a little oil down this hole here and get some oil on the buffer spring, and the spring will come out too if you push down on this. You can pull it out and, you know, wipe it down from the factory grease and stuff. But a little bit of oil down this tube here and let it just run through the spring. It'll make your gun run a little more smooth. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. A couple drops is more than enough. So now let's get it back together and we can talk about something else. Your AR-15 is only as reliable as the magazine that feeds it. And here are three of the most reliable magazines in my opinion. The Magpul Gen 2, a GI Contract Mag, and a Magpul Gen 3. There are a lot of other good magazines out there like Sure Feed and True Feed and all that kind of stuff, but here's a good baseline to start with. In this day and age, more than likely your rifle will come with a Magpul Gen 2. That's fine, nothing wrong with it. These magazines, however, do not work on some European designs, so be careful with that. These magazines, GI Surplus, some are old, some are new. This one's from 2003. So during the assault weapons ban, they had to have this on them. Restricted to military, government, law enforcement, and export use only. Kind of like your tax dollars. Then you have the new whiz-bang mag, the Magpul Gen 3. This one is made to fit in European designs like the 416 and such, but it also has a different follower. what that follower does is present the round slightly higher. As you can see, at a little bit of a different angle. Probably can't see it too well, but so it can feed the military's new M855 Alpha 1 round. Now, why is that? The M855A1 Alpha 1 has a hardened steel tip, and what the Army was finding was that bullet, that projectile, was chewing up the feed ramps on the M4s and M16s and such. So the fix they came up with was to present the round a little bit higher so it can feed that round. Now, for most of us, that won't be a problem because that round is not really commercially available, to my knowledge, and it's a bit more expensive than your regular range trash ammo. So there's that. This will still work with regular 5.56. It's not really that big a deal. These are all 5.56 mags, if you didn't know already. And yeah, these three. Now, some people might say these green follower old surplus magazines suck. Well, I'm of the opinion that that's really not true. Some of you guys that might have been in the Army or the Marines or whatever, you might have a bad taste from those magazines, but you got to think of something. Those magazines were used on a very high op tempo. They were used by thousands of recruits, and they probably weren't treated so well. So they're used and abused, and you just got a dirt mag for training. But these magazines, in my opinion, have been very reliable, and I've really had no problems with them, even with the old green followers. So I even have a couple that have the old black follower, which predates the green follower, and I've not really had any problems. So take that for what that's worth. Just these three magazines, guys. These are the three most common magazines out there. The Stanag Profile, the Magpul Gen 2, and the Gen 3 Magpul. These are all great mags, but you can't go wrong with any of them. So let's move on. So in this next segment, we're going to talk about iron sights. Now, iron sights have in more recent years fallen into the halls of obscurity because everyone's using optics now. This is fitted with a red dot, but I also like to keep backup iron sights. This is the Magpul Embus. It's a flip up, so it stows out of the way when you don't need it, and when you do need it, you pop it up like that. I am a firm believer in having irons on a rifle at all times. Some people aren't. That's good for them. I don't really care. Not my problem. But if you do have iron sights, we're going to talk about how to zero them appropriately. Now, I recommend the 5200 yard zero for iron sights, just because that is a really flat zero out to about 200 yards. Now, human vision is imperfect. I know as you get older, in particular, your vision is not as good as it was when you were younger. My eyes at 32 are not as good as my eyes when I was 22. That's why I kind of rely a lot on optics now, specifically magnifying optics because, vision. Now, why would you want to consider zeroing your iron sights at the 5200 meter zero, or yard zero rather, excuse me? It's a very flat zero out to 200 yards. Why is that important? A threat typically doesn't try to stand there and get hit. It tends to lay down. It tends to hide behind things. It hides under things. It hides leaning around things. So it's really easy just to pick up, put the sight on, and help it go down. It's a really flat zero, so there's not much guesswork out to that distance, and 200 yards is pretty far. And even things at ranges of 100 yards or even less, if it doesn't want to be seen, you're probably not going to see it. So a really simple zero to pick up, put on target, and press trigger is really good and easy to do. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. This carrying handle setting system is really, really dated by this time, but pretty much the same thing. Set it to the Z, zero at 5200, and then never move it. Don't fuck with this dial. Well, you mess with this to get it zeroed, but set it to the Z, leave it. Don't fuck with it once you get your 5200. So let's talk about how to zero the rifle appropriately. So this target here is a tool we're going to use to achieve our 5200 yard zero. Now the way this target works is we set it up at 25 yards. We're going to aim our sight here at the red circled in bullseye. We're going to adjust our impacts until the projectiles land here in this target here, the grayed out one. Now, I have a separate video on AR15 zeros, and for iron sights I recommend the 5200 because it's such a flat shooting zero. It makes a lot of sense. Put the sight on what you want to hit, press the trigger, it goes down, that's it. There's a lot of other zeros that you can use, and if you want to do something like that, that's on you. And they have other targets like this for different zeros, so we're not going to get too deep into the weeds of that, but this is a good way to get it quick and easy. Again, this is for the 5200 per the instructions on top of the target. So zeroing the AR-15 is very simple. The rifle tells you how to zero it. See that up with the arrow pointing to the left? That's referring to the impacts. Screwing this post here with this tool, or you can use a tip of a round to push that detent down and just turn the post. Just turning it this way, clockwise, will raise the impacts up. Screwing it the other way will make the impacts go down. Pretty straightforward. The rifle tells you how to do it. The rear sight is the same way. See that R with the arrow facing that direction? Turning that way will make the impacts go to the right. Turning them the opposite way will make them go to the left. There really isn't much to explain. The rifle tells you how to do it. Your optics are the same way. Turning in the direction the arrow faces is the way the impacts will move. In this case, turning it to the left will make the impacts go to the right. Same thing with the up and down. Turning it towards the arrow in whatever direction it says. In this case, it says up. Turning it that way will make the impacts move up. Inversely, turning them the other way will make them go down. Real simple. You can read your manual on this stuff. It's not that hard. This rifle tells you how to zero it. And the targets like that we just discussed typically have the number of clicks you need to achieve that. So, there's that. So when we do these manipulations, this focus shouldn't be so much on what I have on my rifle set up my way. This is just how it's more comfortable to me. They're general rules that work across the board, no matter how long your barrel is, how long your handguard is, it doesn't matter. When I like to grip this rifle, I grip it nowadays, because I've grown up a little bit. I kind of use the vert grip here. People used to use them a lot like this. I can use my flashlight pretty easily that way too. But I grip my rifle now primarily like this, the C-clamp grip. This grip allows me to pull the rifle into my shoulder better, and it's actually a bit faster to get on target. Take your thumb and run it down the top of your rail like this. And then you can just kind of take your thumb and point at what you want to hit. For proof of concept, try this. Take your thumb and point it at me. Now look at something else around the room. Point your thumb at that. Now, point it back to me. Now, without looking at what you pointed at before, point it back at that thing. Now look. How far off were you? Probably not that far. Your body's really good at knowing where it is, for the most part. So if you just take your thumb and jam the rifle out and point, you'll be pretty much on target. This is a little tip and trick I picked up. Now, as far as AR-15 reloads goes, guys, I'm not really going to touch on them too much because I really think there's only one way to do them. Put the mag and hit the bolt release. Obviously, you can use the charging handle in an emergency, but outside of the couple times where the bolt doesn't lock back on the last shot, there really isn't much of a reason to do so, in my opinion. The charging handle isn't made to go back and forth. It's really made just to pull the bolt back so you can insert your magazine and do your initial loading from a lockback bolt. The AR-15 charging handle is really thin material, and it's not made to be slamming into the front of the receiver like that. It can break, it can damage, even on a nice one. Just, let's see what it looks like, a regular AR-15 reload. Something else to consider, guys, with the AR-15 reload. Leverage is working not for you in this case. like an AK or a Mini 14 where you're locking the front of the mag in and rocking it back, leverage is helping you. AR15, not so much. The magazine is a straight in and out operation. Now on a full magazine of 30 shots, sometimes you might not get a positive seating. So some guys to combat this will do 29, 28 rounds in a magazine. I personally don't do that. If I'm inserting a magazine on a closed bolt, I'll give it an extra bit of a smack on the bottom of the mag to make sure it's fully seated, and then I'll try to pull it out to make sure it actually did seat. It looks a little bit like this. So the magazine will fall away. I will fumble the mag. I'll get it in like this. I'll give it a swift upstroke. I'll hit it and then pull. That's what that'll look like, just to make sure it stayed in. Because I probably inserted mag, guys. It ain't coming out. And obviously that's important when it means your ass or the other guy's ass. So just keep that in mind, guys. Now I know I said I wasn't going to talk too much about this because your AR15 should be tailored to you and your comforts and your needs. This is for example, my hunting upper. It's a 20-inch barrel. I have the bipod set kind of farther back so I can use it as a hand stop from the standing position if I so need. I have a cheap laser aiming module on it, some Amazon special. It's got IR. That's another reason I got it. I don't even have night vision yet, but you can see, I don't know if you can see that dot on the wall. I can't see that like with my naked eye, but through the camera I can. So it's got that capability for the night vision googly-eyed boys if they're about it. It's got a flashlight too, but primarily I just got it for the IR. LPVO 1 to 10, good hunting optic. I keep the carbine lower on this when I hunt because it's a little easier to move around in the woods with a stock that slides, just to get it out of the way a little bit better. And plus it fits in cases better. You're transporting it to and from the range and or the hunting blind. There's so many different options you can do. You can do red dots. I like magnified optics now because my eyes are not as good as they once were. Just the sky's the limit, guys. So you can tailor your rifle exactly to how you want it. Now, I don't like pistol caliber, or excuse me, I don't like pistol length barrels on AR-15s, AR pistols, because 5.56 is a very muzzle velocity dependent round. If you're going to do something like that with a short barrel, a pistol or a short barrel rifle, there's really no reason in my opinion. If you're going to go that short, you can probably do a 300 blackout. That makes a little more sense, and that's a little more specialty. So that's that. You can even get 450 SOCOM or 50 Beowulf uppers if you're going to hunt like big game and things like that. This rifle really is, it's a Lego set, so you can really set it up however you want, of course legally. Stay legal, guys. I mean, not much else to say. It's a really simple video. I'm not really trying to, I'm not turning you into a Navy SEAL or anything like that, so yeah, let's just call that what it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. Go forth, do great things, stay out of trouble. Deuces.